Everyone, I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight. Regular meeting for Chambersburg Area School District Board of Directors for September 12th, 2023, and we'll also follow with our Committee of the Whole. First note on executive session, the board met earlier this evening in executive session to discuss legal matters. So if you please rise for Pledge of Allegiance and followed by a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Item 2.03, approval to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting, please.
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion by Dr. Diller, second by Mr. Leonards. Questions or discussions? Voice vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, so moved. Take one quick step back here. Dr. Shore is unable to join us this evening. He has a professional work commitment. And then Mr. Leonards is on remotely with us this evening. Item 3.01, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. McGee. Any questions, comments, discussions, revisions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. 4.01 President's Report. As I said earlier, just a minute ago, Dr. Shore's not here, but he did provide a statement that I'll read, and then I'll add just a couple things also. Dr. Shore is not able to participate this evening due to a work commitment, but he has provided some comments as part of the President's Report. With the superintendent search now behind us, and we chart the path ahead for CASD, the board will refocus to establishing long-term goals and objectives. Dr. Sherry Smith, who's the Executive Director of PA Association of School Administrators, has agreed to assist and guide us as we start off this process. Dr. Smith served as Deputy Secretary of Elementary and Secondary Education at the PA Department of Education and was previously Superintendent at Lower Dolphin School District, just right up the road. This will be done in collaboration with the continuing superintendent onboarding guidance from Tom Templeton, who was our consultant lead in our superintendent search process. The current board will begin this effort over the next 2 months. Then in November, new board members elect will be invited to join to foster continuity in this transition. The board remains appreciative of the support from Dr. Redding over the past few months. We are pleased that we are able to continue to benefit from his experience during these activities as the 10th board member. And finally, Mr. Bigger, while still satisfying his obligations at Littlestown, will also be joining us as a 10th board member squared. I guess that's 10 squared. That's Dr. Shore's humor. But Mr. Bigger will be joining us with these exercises that we're going to go through as a board. Collectively and collaboratively, this will start to lay out the what, to which Mr. Bigger will add the how. I just want to add a couple comments. Dr. Shore mentioned the superintendent search. I'd just like to give a shout out to all the board and also Tina and the HR department. The superintendent search process started almost a year ago next month is when we started having focus groups. So this board has been very diligent in this, and the focus groups were our first step, and they were very, very informative, and we used them to the very end to help us make the decisions. So just I'd like to thank all the board members, and then also thank Tina for her hard efforts. There's been a lot of time spent on this over the past 12 months. And then as far as what we're going to start on with working on goals, I think that is very important for, you know, for this school district, for this board, you know, and get Mr. Bigger's input in it. I feel we had a conversation, just leadership here last week, that one thing I think we have struggled with a little bit in Chambersburg is defining and then staying on that same path. They're sort of one and the same. If you want to stay on the path, you have to define it, and everyone needs to know it. And that goes with board, that goes with staff, and it's the whole way through. And we have not, we've all been probably a little lax in that in the past. So I'm encouraged with this process we're going to start. We have some very good folks helping us with it. So thank you. Dr. Redding.
Very good. I'll start my report by just acknowledging that this is homecoming week here at the high school and in the district, and activities every day. Tomorrow evening is the homecoming parade and the Powder Puff game, and Friday being the homecoming game against Central Dauphin, and then the dance activity, homecoming dance on Saturday night. I do also want to use this time to provide an update on where the district has been in response to the ransomware event that has made, and what progress we've made, and provide some updates here tonight. CSD students and staff returned to school on August 31st after 3 days of school closure. We restored access to critical educational resources and systems for our teachers in order to limit the impact to our students. Our next step was to reestablish our students in school one-to-one connection with their computer devices and laptops, Chromebooks, etc. We are grateful for the extra time and effort teachers and students put in this that allowed the education of our students to resume successfully while we work towards these next steps. In addition to student computer devices being redeployed into service, our IT team has made significant strides in remediation and restoration efforts. Critical systems have been restored, and access to the internet, for the most part, has been reinstated. The work towards 100% restoration is ongoing, but the vast majority of the systems that allow us to function normally are back in service. We know that there are many questions remain, and members of the community want to know more information. In addition to resecuring a functioning network, we are actively investigating the extent to which any personal information may have been impacted in this incident. Although we do not know enough to report any specifics at this time, we expect to know more in the coming days, and will continue to work hard to address all aspects of this event. Should we identify specific personal information has been or may have been compromised, we will take appropriate steps to identify and notify all such individuals. As this process continues, we will continue to provide the community with updates. The investigation of this event is still very much ongoing. We have retained data privacy attorneys at Mullen Conklin LLC, and with them are working with computer forensics and incident response specialists. Our goal remains to determine the full scope and nature of this event, while continuing to restore operations in a secure manner. We have also reported this matter to the federal law enforcement and will continue to cooperate with all those subject matter specialists. There are several questions that are being asked, and here's responses. Did CSD pay ransom? On the advice of our legal counsel, in order to protect the integrity of the various ongoing investigations, We are not answering this question at this time. We assure you that CSD is working closely with council and law enforcement and taking appropriate action in response to this event. Was student personal information compromised? The privacy of all data is certainly extremely high priority. At this time, this question remains under investigation. As soon as we learn more on this question, to the extent any personal data has been impacted, we will make sure all appropriate steps to inform those affected. When will we know more? We certainly understand that you have more questions, as we do. It is important that we provide accurate, helpful answers to questions that remain. Right now, we do not have any specific timelines, but progress in our investigation as well as recovery is being made every day. We will continue to update the board and the community as this matter continues to be addressed.
All right, thank you, Dr. Redding. Next item on the agenda, 5.01. Members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. And looking at the sign-in sheet, I think I only see one. And if not, we'll have opportunity for anyone else who maybe gets confused with this sheet. Valerie Jordan.
Well, Mrs. Jordan is coming forth. I did also want to note that the comments that I just made are being released to students, staff, and the general public. So if you were trying to keep notes of what I said, it is being shared tonight.
The public opinion will get them. They should. There's a lot of questions. That's my question tonight, because I see Global Data Corporation is on there, and you're going to be paying for this item in your budgetary reserve, which I believe is account 5900, and I know where to find that in the bill list. I did attend a budget meeting, okay, and I know this issue came up, and there were certain board members that hemmed and hawed and didn't want to put money into the system. And maybe that was a bad move. I don't know how good your firewall is. So for being such a huge company, I'll put it like that, you should have the most up-to-date technical equipment to protect the children, especially to protect the children. And I assume every parent is going to get a letter, because we got a letter from Keystone when their system was hacked. So, and my husband just said to me, it takes about a year, but Global Data Corporation is going to want their money. And I don't know whether that should be on here or not, but usually if this is in the form of a resolution, the public has a right to know, and I don't want to have to come back here and tell you that I know. So I just want you to think about that. But that's basically it for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jordan. Anyone else have any, like to comment on any agenda items this evening? Okay. Moving on to Group 6, the consent agenda. Does any board member items 6.01 through 6.15? Does any board member desire for any of those items to be removed from the consent and acted on individually? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which encompasses items 6.01 through 6.15?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Dr. Diller. Questions, discussions? Voice vote again, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Sorry, Mr. Leonard, I forget to pause. I'll pause next time. Item 7.01 in the Curriculum Instruction and Technology section, Social Studies Curriculum Resources. Mr. Whitman and Dr. Lautenschlager.
Yes, after last year, I want to first give thanks to Dr. Lautenschlager for leading the social studies resource. We had teachers from all levels participate in many meetings after school, looking at resources, talking to vendors, and the resources that you see are what they picked in each division. Each tab that you can open there shows you the number of books / licenses. Those numbers also include the teacher resources for K through 5, which is the TCI. Then we have the middle school, and then we have the 9 through 12. The AP courses did select the same resources that the middle school selected.
For those of you who roam the halls of Faust, Mr. Norcross would be happy to see civics books. This is an action item. Administration recommends approving the quotes to purchase of the social studies curriculum and resources.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Diller, second by Mr. Raber. Any questions or discussions on this item? A voice vote again, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Item 7.02, adjust the 2023-2024 approved school calendar. Dr. Long, please.
Thank you, sir. What we have is the calendar that is in front of you that has been adapted. From the old calendar, October 9th was a professional development day. That was a no-school day for students, but our staff was going to be in session. We would like to change that date to a live school day for students and staff, and one of the makeup days for the 3 days that we're off. Also, the other two makeup days will be February 19th and March 15th. They were our 2 snow days that we had built in. So the October 9th Professional Development Day would then be moved to the end of the year, and tentatively it's at June 3rd right now. But if we have some other inclement weather or other things that we need to close schools, then school would either be through a FID day or else added on to the end of the year, which could push that day out depending on the number of days we're out. We did not change the marking period days because we still have 180 days, and we wanted to be in line with the other districts and the Career Center. So we are asking for approval of this new calendar.
We have a motion for the recommendation to adjust the 2023-2024.
Yeah, move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McGee, second by Mrs. Gogler. Questions or discussions?
Yes, I have a couple of things I want to mention. I understand we're just amending what was previously approved, but when we go into discussions with the incoming superintendent, there are a bunch of things on here that I hope the board will examine more closely. Over the years, this thing has just morphed into where it is now. It doesn't seem like the board has a discussion on why is it this date and why is it that date. On this schedule, it has January 18th is the last day of the first semester, and the very next day is the first day of the second semester. So for teachers, you've got your 150 students on Thursday, and then you got a completely different 150 students on Friday. There used to be days in between there when we had something called midterm tests. And that's something for the board to find out about also. Why are we not testing? Why are we allowing so many projects to be done? To my mind, we fear the rigor. We worry too much about looking good on grades or graduates. What we want to look good on is learning. And so I just ask the board to, in due course, when we're talking about goals and things like this, take a hard look at this calendar. And of course, always a perennial question is, you know, they say all a board does is make a budget and make a calendar. So why do we start when we start? Why do we end when we end in the school year? I would like that to be, again, open for discussion. And to hear from the community on, are they satisfied with this time that the school year starts? Are they satisfied when the school year ends? I would use the time when we start analyzing goals for the incoming superintendent. And I asked the board in advance to look at this calendar, and some of it results from what I think is a lessening of rigor in our academic program, which I think we should restore. I think it's very important to not kid ourselves. If a kid hasn't learned something, a kid hasn't come to class, and you say, well, do a project. What project? Draw a poster. Okay, you pass. Who are we cheating there? That kid has learned no discipline, hasn't gotten the education. So that's our job, is to see that the kids get educated, not that they did something, not that we gave them a grade even though they didn't earn it. We gave them a 50 even though they handed in a blank piece of paper. So I could go on, but I just asked the board to get ready and consider, while considering the academic calendar, and get input from the administrators, get input from the teachers. You know, what would work better to educate our kids? We as the board, every year we get this thing, here it is, yeah, we all approve it, but we should, it's been a lot of years since this has been discussed, and it should be discussed and analyzed and maybe adjusted thoroughly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finucane. Any other questions or comments? I do have one, Dr. Long. The dates that we are amending here, excuse me, this evening, how do they line up with Career Tech? Is Career Tech in session those dates, or?
Some of those days they are. What had taken place when our students were off as a district, just about 2/3 of our students actually still went to Career Tech. And then the other ones, they asked for an excuse from their parents, stating that the district,
Not here.
that the district was closed, so they excused them. So that would be part of their 180 day or 90 days for their semester there.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. I know Mr. Miller mentioned that over at Career Tech meeting last month, that by the second day, I think it was close to 75% of Chambersburg students found their way to Career Tech through their own means of transportation. So that was very encouraging, and commend those students for finding a way to get to school and keeping up on their education. Okay, voice vote again on the motion to approve the school calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. 7.03, Global Data Corporation Statement of Work. Dr. Long again.
Yes, this statement of work is for an employee at Global Data to assist our technology department, among the things that that are going on right now.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Diller, second by Mr. McGee. Any questions or comments on the recommendation to approve Global Data's corporation statement of work? Okay, voice vote again, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Section 8, Secondary Services, 8.01, expulsion of 7th grade student. Dr. Long.
Yes, this student will be expelled for possession of a weapon. He will be expelled for 1 year.
If there's any other information needed, we'd have to go to executive session, so, or we need a motion to approve the administration's recommendation for 1 year expulsion for the 7th grade student.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Dr. Diller. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Business Services, item 9.01, General Obligation Bond 2023 Parameters Resolution. Mrs. Stauffer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Norcross. I'd like to introduce John Cox, who's here with us tonight as bond counsel. He will present the item to the board.
Green light's good. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Stauffer. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you again. Before the board this evening is a resolution authorizing the issuance of a series of general obligation bonds of the school district in the maximum principal amount of $12 million to provide funds for various capital projects of the school district in accordance with the school district's long-term capital improvement project improvement plan. This is a follow-up to your meeting on August 8th, where the plan of finance was reviewed with the board. This is the first step of a three-part plan of finance. The goal is to yield a little less than $10 million from this bond issue. Again, as you've done in the past, this is a parameters. There's additional principal added purely for purposes of a DCAD approval and to give the financial advisor flexibility to move principal around within each maturity of the bond issue. It's a 25-year bond issue, so each maturity has a little extra principal to allow them to optimize the debt service so that you are able to obtain the lowest interest rates in the market. The resolution has been advertised as required under the Local Government Unit Debt Act and made available for public inspection. It's the only action that the board needs to take to move forward with the issuance of these bonds. It authorizes the officers, the administration to work with the financial advisor, PFM, to actually go into the market, price the bonds, and accept the final terms of the bonds, authorizes the officers to sign all necessary and related documents, authorizes us to file documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development as required by state law, has all the other provisions for you to issue tax-exempt bonds in the public marketplace under the Internal Revenue Code and the federal securities laws. So happy to answer any questions that any of you might have, but otherwise this is similar in form to bond resolutions for new money projects that the school district has approved previously.
Okay, need a motion to approve the general obligation bond 2023 parameters resolution as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Leonard, second by Mrs. Gogler. Any questions, discussions on item 9.01? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on this one. Mrs. Stauffer, please.
Dr. Diller?
Yes.
Mr. Fanouken?
Yes.
Mrs. Gogler?
Yes.
Mr. Leonards?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
Yes.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
And Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Thank you.
Section 10, Human Resources, item 10.01, Personnel Actions. Mrs. Clever, do you have anything to add to this? The document is attached to everyone's agenda. Do we have a motion this evening to approve the personnel actions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Raber. Voice vote again on this one, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so moved. Item 11, board member reports. Starting at my left and coming up, Mr. Raber.
I'll pass. No report for this month.
Dr. Diller?
Just that the curriculum committee is on, I think, Monday from 1 to 3. Correct? The 20, excuse me.
25th.
It's nice that I'm getting hand signals over there. The 25th curriculum committee meeting, if anyone would like to join us.
Nothing from transportation.
Mrs. Gogler?
Nothing.
Okay. As far as Career Tech, or at least a part of Career Tech, 2 weeks ago, as president of Career Tech, I get the privilege of doing 3 graduations, actually 4, I guess, at least 4 a year. 2 here for Chambersburg and 2 a year for our practical nursing program. We graduated 12 students, all young ladies, 2 Thursdays ago from the practical nursing program. And I'm almost embarrassed to say this. I think I said it last year. This is only the second time I attended that ceremony. It is a fabulous ceremony, watching the students as they get their pin and then they take their lamp and they go up and they say the nurse's pledge. And I think I shared this with Mrs. Gogler. Many years ago, my mother graduated from Polytech Institute up in Harrisburg, and we were going through some old photos at home, and, you know, back in 1950-something, they used these same lamps back then.
Still have mine.
So it's a very moving ceremony. They dim the lights in the sanctuary. If you ever get a chance, I'd just encourage you to attend.
The next policy committee meeting is October the 5th. We had to move it due to the issues that are going on at the district. October the 5th at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Nothing.
All good? Okay. Item 12.01, privilege of the floor. Members of the audience are invited to comment on non-agenda items. I believe there are 2 for this. The first one is Mr. John Jordan.
Okay, went my on, I guess. I just wanted to make a point, I guess, tonight. As you know, in the past year or so, I've been here talking quite often about the number of positions that we have opened constantly to be filled in this school district. My past experience is anytime anybody ever got a job with school districts, they basically stayed forever. You couldn't never get them out of there. This district seems to have a problem about that. So my thought is, and I've looked around, and I like the board members, when they go around town and look and see these help wanted signs out there, how much they're willing to pay. I saw one this week earlier, no experience necessary, $17 and change an hour. Yesterday at the post office, $19 and change, no experience necessary. So the last discussion that I remember, we were talking about some of our people are getting paid $11 and $12 an hour, which isn't acceptable in my mind. So the Finance Committee and the board should be looking when they go around town to see, because I really feel that the board is not paying enough money to get good qualified people to stay with the district. It's more of a living wage. Well, I don't know if $15 an hour is a living wage of what, but when I see other places around that are paying $17 and $19 an hour with no experience necessary, there's no reason why this school board can't up it to get good qualified people to stay in the jobs and make everything run smoother. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. The other citizen who signed up for non-agenda items, Mrs. Valerie Jordan.
Written statement to make, to say. But first, I'd like to say that the calendar is the responsibility of the administration. If you get parents involved, you're going to have a Megillah. And if you're worried about a student not getting educated, you can go sit in the classroom. But this brought memory back to me. I'm in 11th grade history class, and it was college prep, and I literally had to walk in with a poster, and the poster was this high. So let's not assume that the children are not getting educated, because I came out of Colonia High School very well educated. So here's my statement. You know it is bad in our school district when a teacher reaches out to you in a private message and asks for help, and that did happen to me. SEL is mistaken for conspiracy when all it is critical thinking, math, reading, grammar, and spelling. A bill list shows no signs of any conspiracy going on. A board member berates taxpayers in email and private messages, and I did get private messages. Revenue and fund balances outpace long-term debt to the tune of $224.6 million to $125.5 million, which clearly shows debt is not your problem here. It is openly stated that a person speaking at your podium could be sued knowing you are facing 10 special ed lawsuits totaling almost $427,000. Property tax relief grows to $6.2 million, when in the previous 2 years, the relief sat at only $1.04 million. A $30,000 grant is rejected for children of all races. The Personnel Committee should be negotiating with both unions to see fair and equitable contracts are worked out by the end of June 2024. Parents obviously want their children in school. A strike would prevent that from happening. I was going to talk about the breach, but thank you, Dr. Redding, for doing that. 3 residents bring to your attention that one of your board members is out of compliance with policy 815, acceptable use of communication and information, CIS systems. Former Superintendent Joe Podasic even called him out on it. District staff feel extremely uncomfortable in the presence of several of you board members. A taxpayer receives a call from a district employee admonishing her for an email sent out when the information was already made public on the web. On your very own web page, it shows you will have a $2 million deficit by year's end. Finally, you have now 97 openings, while Lancaster Area School District with 11,000 students has only 25 openings, and I easily Googled that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jordan. Any other member of the audience care to comment on non-agenda item this evening? Okay, if not, 13.01, meeting's adjourned. Yep. And then information item 14, just as was discussed earlier, scheduled makeup days are going to be used for student instruction. Anything? We'll take a little break and then we'll convene our committee of the whole. Okay, go ahead and continue this evening with our Committee of the Whole. Item 1.01, JROTC Unique Field Trip. Dr. Long.
Yes, this is a unique field trip to Colts Neck, New Jersey. This is for them to go into a drill, fitness, and athletic competition there. The competition serves as an exam and reinforces the concepts taught during their classes. The funding for this will be the JROTC budget and then reimbursement through the Navy. And this trip happens each year.
Okay. Any concerns? If not, we'll move this forward to consent agenda next meeting.
Okay, the next one is Cassius FFA unique field trip request. They are going to Indianapolis to the national event that 2 of our people are going to be recognized at that event. And it's no cost to the district.
I'd just like to comment that the FFA Club should be commended for the cost savings that they have for this field trip. The coordination of advisors from Northern York and Chambersburg for transportation and hotel rooms is commendable. Although the cost of the trip is not from the general budget, the prudent use of the club finances should be recognized. I have some familiarity with helping other schools to get to these kinds of things. When my husband was at the Career Center, he and the advisor for FBLA at Scotland School worked together to save money on expenses for field trips, and I think we need to be aware of that, and I'm just commending the advisors for doing that.
Thank you.
No questions? Move this one on to consent agenda next month also. Or next meeting. 1.03, Mr. Whitman.
Yes, 1.03 and 1.04 are contracts. One is reoccurring. The first one for SLP, speech language pathologist, we're still short one. We approved one tonight that's probably going to be held for 60 days, and we have speech language pathologist that's going to be going out on maternity leave. So we do need some folks to still service our students that need speech language services. That's for 1.03 and 1.04.
Okay. If there's no objection, both these items will move forward on consent agenda also. Tax exoneration, Mrs. Stauffer.
Yes, thank you. The Franklin County Tax Claim Bureau has sent to us some properties that they believe should be eliminated from our records. The total exoneration is $817.64.
Just a formality, so we'll put this one on consent agenda also. And then item 1.08, fee schedule, Dr. Redding.
Yeah, there's just no report at this point. We are working to revise that. In the executive content, there is a document that is a draft of where we are in that process.
Okay. Any board members have any items for tonight?
Yes, I'd like to just say that I'm absolutely thrilled that we have put in place the K-12 English Language Arts, the ELA materials, and also the social studies. This district had some very outdated materials, and of course these curriculum materials are very expensive, but at the same time I'm just thrilled that we have those 2 subject areas updated. I think that's commendable to all who has been involved, so thank you.
Any other board meeting members? 7:52. I think we set a record. Don't tell Dr. Sure. All right. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.